To begin with, I certainly didn't approach the issue with any sort of suspicion or foregone conclusions. However, things began to change as the pandemic evolved.
So Richard Dearlove also ran into resistance to the lab leak theory. He's the former head of the British spy agency, MI6. Early in the pandemic, 2 scientists asked for his help in publishing a paper that cast doubt on COVID-19 coming from an infected animal.
We approached Nature, we approached Science, we approached the American Journal of Virology, we approached various publications in the UK, and it was clear to me that there was a sort of united front not to put anything in the public domain which questioned the Chinese narrative.
How disturbing is this censorship? And do you think it amounted to Chinese disinformation?
I'm pretty sure that the Chinese, after the outbreak in Wuhan, and they're very good at doing this, sat down and, developed their own information campaign.
So, Richard, you were one of the first people internationally to come out and say this virus may be the result of a laboratory leak. How were you treated after you made those remarks?
I had people saying to me, Richard, my strong advice is you don't get involved in this issue. It's conspiracy theory. And I mean, my reply to them was, if that's what you really think, you haven't really looked at the science. You don't understand the arguments. And I suggest you go back and delve into this a bit more deeply, because you're going to find some pretty strange things when you do. Boy, did I get put-downs from, some very important parts of government who basically were keen that I shut up.
Was this by British government or British intelligence?
I leave it to your imagination, given my past links.
Another paper that struggled to find a home was from Professor Petrovsky. His research found the virus was better adapted to infect humans than any other animal, including bats.
And we thought the scientific journals, particularly the leading ones, would actually jump on this paper because they like to have papers that are very topical, that are going to get a lot of media attention. And so we were quite stunned when we just got rejection after rejection after rejection without even the paper being looked at.
Professor, this is censorship of science.
Absolutely. And of course, the more this happened, the more indignant I and my colleagues, who were authors of the paper became, because, again, science is not about politics. It's not about, only finding nice things. It's about, what is the truth? What are the facts?
It's a sad story of unprincipled compromise in face of an authoritarian regime. And also, it is also a sad story of political wokeness, because the reason many scientists sign on to that kind of rhetoric, to accuse anybody who's seriously interested in the possibility, not the certainty, but the possibility of a lab leak, as simply racist.
It is my profound honor to address the United Nations General Assembly. We must hold accountable the nation which unleashed this plague onto the world, China.
Why were so many scientists against the lab leak theory? Well, one of the reasons was United States President Donald Trump.
Yes, unfortunately, you could say that the Trump factor contaminated the argument quite seriously. And I think there were a significant number of prominent scientists who did not want publicly to appear to be supporting Trump.
We saw big media say, you know what, Donald Trump and his Secretary of State are out talking about this thing. These people are surely crazy. They're political zealots. They want a shiny object. I heard all the different stories. But of course, as we unpack it, as we accumulate data, science, evidence, facts, it's more clear than ever that the virus came from this laboratory.
In early 2020, the medical journal The Lancet published a letter from a group of scientists saying the lab leak was a conspiracy. The man behind the letter was Peter Daszak. He's the president of EcoHealth Alliance, and he'd been working with the Wuhan Institute of Virology for 15 years, sending US grant money to Wuhan for bat research.
He's the absolute expert on bat-borne coronaviruses in the United States in their epidemiology, and that he assures us that the Chinese had provided him personally with proof to make it clear that this had come out of nature. But when we asked for this proof, when we asked the government agencies that had funded the work of EcoHealth and others, they couldn't give us that proof because they didn't have that proof.
We looked at what certain scientists were saying, matching it with intelligence, and when it didn't match up, we were questioning it. But then as we looked more closely at the Wuhan Institute of Virology, you know, what a lot of scientists like Dr. Fauci and Peter Daszak were saying was, there's no live bats there, there's no gain-of-function research there, there's no military there, and we had intelligence that was telling us that all of those things were occurring there.
WHO has been assessing this outbreak around the clock, and we're deeply concerned both by the alarming levels of spread and severity and by the alarming levels of inaction.
It took more than 12 months from the start of the pandemic for the World Health Organization to finally send a team to Wuhan to investigate the origins of the virus. The US submitted the names of 3 officials, but one they didn't suggest was picked: Peter Daszak.
What we did see on the animal side is clear evidence that the Chinese scientists showed us. They found this information out from the market, that there was a pathway into that market of animals that we know are coronavirus reservoirs, are able to carry coronaviruses from places where the nearest related viruses are found.
If you're telling us it came out of nature, you gotta give us proof. When we looked for proof for zoonosis through all of the cable traffic, all of the intelligence, everything, we could find almost nothing.